There's a lot that Friends with Affixes is playing for as well. I mean, already we are seeing that the only region with 2 teams qualifying at this point is APAC. So they're kind of leading with sending the most teams so far. If Friends with Affixes can pull a major upset here, we'll have 2 NA teams, but most likely Raider.io I think is clearly the favorite team. What do you think of this pool coming out of them?
We're actually seeing a bigger pull from Friends with Affixes here because they're pulling the mini boss and the pack up ahead as well. So have a little bit more of a pack here. It is kind of dangerous with Sanguine as well because they got to make sure that they keep moving. As you can see, one of those mobs, or the actual mini boss, actually struggling around there a little bit, casting. The Moonkin going super low there. Raider.io just going to come up to that boss, being a little bit behind in terms of where they are right now. But if they can get this next pull just controlled, they should be able to just delete it.
Yeah, we're seeing Friends with Affixes doing this pull pretty cleanly. Raider.io starting to speed up ahead, already getting this first pull here on the stairwell.
Yeah, and Friends with Affixes is now killing that mini boss, which Raider.io had a little bit more focus because they didn't pull that extra trash. So now they're dealing with these ads and gonna make sure that they stun interrupt them. Actually, the Moonkin going for a little bit extra mob percentage here with those ads on the sides, pulling them, just leave them in there. They move easily, so they shouldn't be that bad. That is a lot of trash though for Raider.io.
I will say though, you can already see like Raider.io having a clear plan. We are going to see the rogue dipping very low here. It doesn't look, and just going to just fall down at this point.
But Friends with Affixes are having 3 deaths already, if not 4 in total as well. They're actually doing a really sloppy pull here. I think they might have a full raid wipe there as well. Yeah, indeed, they do.
Yeah, I don't mind this pull coming out of Raider.io either. You can definitely sacrifice those 5 seconds of time from the death. The rogue already back into the action, and that's a tricky pull to do with Sanguine as well. You got to really be rotating the mobs around, but so much trash already done. They're already about at that 50% mark. They're going to be able to just stealth past this pack, and this is a pack that can be somewhat tricky. We've already talked about it before when those metamorphoses start to go off from those fel-infused mobs. If you don't get a kick going, it can just be an absolute team wipe. But coming up here, they're just going to throw out another group of CC because they already have that 49% because the boom can rotate it around, pulled additional trash. They're going to be able to start things off onto Rathon.
I really love seeing this from Raider.io. This is the first time we actually see them skip those trash that effectively too. Just ignore them. Just let's get to the boss. They're already at 50%. Friends with Affixes is quite a bit behind, and they are dealing with those trash too. However, relatively swiftly as it is not fortified. So Raider.io now 75%. The boss has just gone into Vengeance form now, taking a little bit more damage, throwing out his glaives. So they should have a relatively easy time dealing with this boss here. However, remember, it is 17, it is tyrannical. This boss gets dicey really, really fast.
Yeah, and one of the things they definitely want to be paying attention to, want to make sure that they put up their active mitigation, otherwise the boss will actually, at certain moments, be able to get a shield on himself, and that'll just make it that much longer to actually take him down. We do see Dark Strikes going out right now. Friends with Affixes, though, in the bottom portion of your screen, did managed to pull the boss now after their wipe. They do have 7 deaths at the current moment. You can see their tank getting absolutely spiked down. Cannot get above that 50% mark and is going to fall down. Battle Res comes out very quickly. They have plenty of them at their disposal, and they are 80%. They have 80% already on the boss.
Yeah, that's pretty surprising as well, especially with the Druid ending up dying on that boss. We saw Raider actually have that shield up because the tank didn't have active mitigation up. It doesn't do that much every time it hits. If you don't have active mitigation up, it puts a little bit of shield on the boss, so even if you let one through, it's a little bit of damage loss on the boss because you're obviously dealing with that shield. But now he's going into Havoc form. This is where he's gonna start hurting. This is the real DPS race of the fight. You're gonna have to deal with the fire explosion as you see all the time, as well as that's the hatred coming out right now. The Moonkin going for it and just running away. Everyone needs to deal with that because that is gonna almost one-shot. Actually, the tank standing in it. I'm not sure if that's because he used Blood Mirror, I believe, which actually relays that damage back to the boss a little bit. Sometimes you see the DK standing and stuff, just to do a little bit more damage on the boss. And then that's a Furious Blast. Needs to interrupt that one, try to do it as late as possible, just so the boss just basically stands around there and doesn't do anything.
And taking a look at the Boomkin talents right now, as Raider.io is managing to get down this first boss here, you can see that the Boomkin talented for a very strong AoE build, but didn't actually talent into Soul of the Farce, and this is something that I actually mentioned a little bit earlier today. When you do switch on that ring, the ring of the Archdruid, the legendary ring, you're going to be able to get Soul of the Farce for free, so you can actually spec into Incarnation. Then you're still going to have that additional AoE damage coming off of shooting stars, and like it just allows you to do big damage on the boss as well. And we could see that last time around that the single target damage was not lacking from the Boomkin. It's not lacking here either for friends with Affixes. I
think one of the things Raider IO is really benefiting them is that mass grip. You saw right there, they just pulled all the mobs, all the small imps, gripped them all, and then just destroyed them. Meanwhile, friends with Affixes is now on the Havoc form of this boss. He's done with his damage his phase when he takes less damage. The boss should die relatively fast now, but Raider IO on that Imp Mother and should have it down right away there, and just to see if they are lucky with the elevator and with the avalanche potion.
Yeah, and exactly what you're looking for here is you want the elevator to be all the way down, then you can avalanche potion down, and that's what they got there, and that just saves them quite a few seconds of time, because you can't actually avalanche potion if the elevator's even halfway up. You kind of have to wait for it to come all the way up and then go back down. So that's going to give Raider.io that little bit of an extra push, as they do get to pull Inquisitor right now, and it looks like they're going to be pulling some of the dogs as well, and this is standard for them. You do see quite a lot. Their Moonkin actually trying to pull additional trash, having really strong cleave, also having that warrior who can get some serious work done as well. I'm sure if we would actually see most likely the warrior maybe even spec into something like sweeping strikes to get some of that additional cleave damage. Now with the Inquisitor of Torment, there's a lot of stuff to be keeping an eye on, literally and besides the actual eyes.
Well, there's the ad you need to keep an eye on. However, right now we're going to see him teleport over to one of the doors and open them. Actually, it looked like the whole team was getting disoriented there. I don't really know. That's not really the Raider IO we've seen before. I'm not quite sure why that happened, but the whole team was actually disoriented.
Well, more interesting than that to me is for a second it looked like they were maybe thinking about actually going for the pull, where you just leave the Inquisitor there, you actually line of sight him so he'll come back with the ads, but having that Death Knight, you're able to do exactly what we just saw. That's that Gore Fiend's grip coming out once those ads are out, pulling them all in, getting massive AoE damage out onto everything. There's the eye again. Doesn't look like we're going to see too much problem with this mechanic. Basically, you just need to look at the eye when it puts that ability out, or you will get disoriented. One of the things with the ads, when you actually do pull them in on this particular key, with the Quaking, the group is very stacked up. You don't want to be taking that additional damage. We are going to see Raider IO attempt to spread out. Now, friends with Affixes finally beat that elevator boss. Now they're going to be pulling Inquisitor again. And this is the thing, friends with Affixes, they're going to lose another player here. They're over, they have 9 deaths at this point. And we were saying that even if they're going relatively quickly, but that's just putting more and more of a distance between them and Raider.io, and Raider.io looking very clean, even with those little things, like seeing the Moonkin actually pull additional ads. Look how far they are on trash.
That's also where you really have that benefit from that DK, as you said. You see those grips, as soon as the ads spawn, everything is on top of each other. The rogue is able to just go absolute ham on those ads, just destroying them. Friends with Affix haven't won that one death, and as you said, they've had several deaths before, so they clearly do not have a combat rest available for them right now.
Yep. Yeah, and one of the other things about the rogue too is you do mention the rogue damage being great, and when those ads come out, not only is the rogue able to do some AoE damage, one of the really nice things, like Death from Above, going to be huge against all those ads, but actually using that Shuriken Storm once again to create additional combo points, to put more eviscerates into the boss, going to result in a huge increase on single target DPS as well. One of the mechanics that we haven't mentioned so far is this one, Sap Soul, which is coming out, so that's actually going to steal the next ability that you put out, and it's pretty easy to play around though, using an ability that's less important, you're not going to need in a very pivotal moment.
Yeah, we can see also all those ads that Raider.io has pulled extra with the boss, he's cleaving them down kinda. Like, I'm pretty sure that Raider.io has practiced this a ton and knows exactly how many mobs they want to have to deal with before they end up skipping some trash. And we've seen that especially in the last corridor. It's a little bit of a slow corridor, so right now we're seeing them killing the second boss. Inquisitor is down for Raider.io now, and they're gonna deal with that Shivara.
Yeah, looking at the warrior now, this was kind of one of the things I wanted to see. We are going to see that sweeping strike, so that's going to give additional cleave. Also, Avatar and Ravager. Now, this is kind of the wombo combo for warriors when you actually do get into these Mythic Pluses, because you can just pop that Avatar, you can pop that Ravager all at once, and that is basically just going to do so much damage, especially if you stack it with things like the Glaives. It's just so much damage all at once, and it's very quick. They come off of cooldown non-stop, so you basically just look at trash packs and say, hey, do we want to delete delete this one. Okay, I'm going to take a breather, and then I will delete the next one. Now, Raider.io getting that Shavara down, expecting them to go straight to Glazer here. This is the more standard strategy. We did see Premonition kind of taking a Yui, going over to take down the good old Ash Golem first, but man, Friends with Affixes not having a DPS up this entire fight and being one man down, just going to make it take that much longer.
Yeah, that fight will take so much time. They've only just finished with one of the doors as well, so they're gonna have to deal with another door and another 40% on a tyrannical 17 boss. That is a lot of HP, and they do not have a DK, so they can't solo this one.
Yeah, now on to Glazer. This boss we've already seen a few times today. Major mechanics that you want to be watching out for is everything that is shooting around on the ground. He then goes into this phase where he puts a shield up on himself. One of the mirrors, the overloaded lens that you see on your screen, you need to be able to DPS that. Once you finish taking it down, it'll pop up and you're actually able to redirect it. The I-beam comes out, you shoot it back at the boss, and then you're back to DPSing.
Yeah, you gotta point these mirrors back at him, and right now he's gonna take a bit of more damage for a while, for like 10 or 15 seconds, I believe. And this is where you really see cooldowns coming out. We see the Holy Paladin just using wings and probably just destroying this boss quite a bit too, because it's very important to try to be able to push it so fast that you do not get a second lens phase, as that will make you spend so much time on this boss, and that's something you've seen several teams do before, so I have no doubt to see Raider.io do exactly that as long as they don't have any deaths.
Yeah, Meow Chen's damage being really impressive here. And one of the other things to note about Meow Chen being in that melee range there, he's going to actually spawn some of those blue orbs that you see running across the ground, going to put them in the direction of Glazer, so he'll take additional damage there as well. I mean, just got to take a moment here to just commend Raider.io. I mean, they're playing it by the book. You see them doing those cheeky little extra pulls. I mean, it's not bolstering, so they don't have to really worry about that. It's free combo points, and it's free Moon King cleave. And we already saw that the Moonkin is wearing Lady and the Child as well, so the Moonfire is going to be cleaving as well. It's just free damage at that point. Now they have 81%. I'm just curious to see how they take the rest of the dungeon when they actually do get to that spooky room. Obviously, they have to get Ash Golem out of the way first, but once they get down there, seeing which pulls they skip is going to be a big factor. Now, Friends with Affixes not playing, I mean, they haven't looked that bad, right? They have the 9 deaths on the board, which is definitely concerning, but they've kind of regained. But having no warrior during that boss fight just added so much time to their clock. They're going to pull the Shavara right now. I think the big thing is that I want to see with Friends with Affixes when we get to the second game is we've seen them before have performances like this, where they kind of have like that one trip, and then all of a sudden they're a great team. I want to see them just not have that trip and see what they really can do when they are racing against Raider.io, who is now working on Ash Golem, who is currently brittle.
Yeah, losing that warrior really make them take so much longer time to deal with a second boss. So Raider.io now on Ash Golem, getting a 60% after the first brittle phase where he takes more damage, and then now having to actually do the phase a little bit, soaking those fires, as you can see the AMS coming out there as well. So you're gonna see probably the row going over some as well with Cloak of Shadows. Right there we see them just to soak them up. It's actually really close there, because you want to make sure that you soak them up so that they do not creep into those fire rats, as a little bit hard time seeing here, but they are close to the boss. Also moving the boss on top of it so that they can do really effective cleave, as we've seen several times from Raider.io's perspective.
Yeah, I mean, one of the other things we can actually see, and yeah, we are seeing it right now, is the Death Knight can just go ahead and pop things like AMS and just run right through the fire and deal with that mechanic very easily. So we are going to see their Death Knight being the one to lead the charge on dealing with that mechanic. More fire puddles coming down right now, but it shouldn't be a problem. Plenty of real estate is left, but actually the Paladin going to take care of it here. Second brittle phase now coming out, and the damage is going to be absolutely bonkers, as the boss does take additional damage during this portion of the fight. Friends with Affixes, though, they're going to be working on Ash Golem slightly behind. They will have to hang a Yui, though, and go back to Glazer. This is going to be their third boss. So they are going for the route that we saw Premonition. Maybe this is kind of the NA route that is being taken over and over again, because this happened twice in the region, but they are at a much slower place than their NA brothers were.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, it's probably more due to cooldown management. As you saw in that series too, the warrior was dead for quite a while on the boss before, so now they're going into this one and just, I guess, kind of having all cooldowns ready in both these cases, so that's why they opt to go for Ash Golem instead. So Raider IO now killed Ash Golem, Friends of Affixes on him, and yet another boss. So Raider IO probably gonna skip here with the Shroud, probably with movement speed potion as well, or it looks like they actually just straight up invis potioned everyone there, yeah.
It's interesting to see the Invis Potion there. So one of the big things, and mentioned this a little bit earlier in the day, when you do have the Quaking, it can make the stealth pulls very tricky. So they're going to use this Invis Potion all the way. Now the Quaking's going to come at a pretty decent time. They should be able to just plummet on down with these Meteor Potions, and that's the second elevator that did really go in their favor.
Friends of Affixes having that Hunter dying there and ending up having to combat res him. They have plenty of combat reses, however, they also have plenty of deaths, so they have a lot of, are using them constantly. Raider IO, however, as you said, the Invis Potion there, which is a little bit different from what we've seen before. We've seen other teams Invis Potion right here after these spiders instead, so you can't actually Shroud at that point, because if you Shroud one of them, you might not make it through both of the mini bosses there. So
also the thing with Raider.io is they pull with that in mind as well, so they still do need to get an 8% here on the board if they want to get into Cordana, and they do have the Shroud of Concealment here, so they will be able to skip a decent amount of trash here. Just have to make sure Quaking does go in their favor, but they will only need to do an additional pull alongside, and now they are going to pull those spiders, so it looks like they're going to be doing these spiders next to the mob that is somewhat of the gatekeeper here, that Broodmaster, and then there's one more mob that's actually going to be, I think that Broodmaster is the last one.
Yeah, you have the Brood Mother, and then after that you have one of those Vanquished Spirits. It's kind of risky, as you mentioned earlier in a previous series, to kill Spiderlings and the Vengeance, Spirit of Vengeance, because that Spirit of Vengeance does not move.
But it's
getting these Sanguine
it's the spirit. Yeah, it's the Spirit of Vengeance though that actually does open the door,
yep.
right? So we have seen some groups kind of been at the point where they only need the Spirit of Vengeance, but they pull additional pulls. Raider.io maybe pulling one extra mob here. I was a little surprised that they pulled all the spiders. The Brood Mother does give a decent amount of percentage up on the board. Raider IO definitely in the driver's seat here. Friends with Affixes now working on Glazer, getting some decent damage onto him. They need to get down that lens right now if they want to catch up, but I think the main thing is here, they need a big wipe. That's the only way that they potentially catch up to Raider.io. And I don't necessarily think that, when we jumped into the series, was saying that a big thing that could happen is, they make sure to get down that Vengeful Spirit first too, so they can actually have someone charge on up, get the RP started. So finding those little inches is going to put a lot of seconds in Raider.io's favor. But the big thing to look out for was, I really think Friends with Affixes, we've seen performances in the past where they could be very close to Raider.io in this particular dungeon, and if Friends with the Affixes can slightly regain when they get in this next series, maybe they can actually take a map, especially with their pick. Maybe they can take one off of Raider.io, but going into Cordana here, Raider.io probably not breaking a sweat.
Yeah, we've seen them basically do flawless pulls, flawless dungeons, and bosses in the past, so seeing something that would cost a detrimental wipe for them is going to be unlikely. However, it can happen. It is tyrannical. So right now they're dealing with this ad that stole the light from them. They do not have the hunters. They can't look up, find Cordana easier. So they have to actually get that light back, look, and then find the boss. And now they just gotta get her down to 40%. Meanwhile, Friends with Affix is now gonna be dealing with this jailer here. They're having the hunter actually move past and deters. I'm probably gonna feign death eventually and just have that kind of sacrifice tactic without actually sacrifice. But didn't work out well for them at all. They do end up losing the Moonkin.
Yeah, pulled aggro. I mean, one of the main things you want to do there is you're basically the decoy as your team runs by, and also the Meteor Potion going to slam them straight into the elevator, which they will now need to ride down. It looks like one member did get through, so that is really unfortunate as far as seconds are going to be for Friends with Affixes. But jumping back on board with Raider.io, I think the main thing to note is all of the things that we can sit here and say as casters we would like to see improve are so nitpicky and unrealistic. Like, I really think that Raider.io did perform this really well. I mean, there are obviously things that you can say, but not being in the dungeon, it's a lot easier to say those things than actually enact them. So you got to give it up to Raider.io, exactly what we do expect from them. This is the leading team in the world right now. It seems to be the favorite to win this, but Friends with Affixes definitely do have a shot coming into the second map, but they are not looking good here. All of a sudden, they're going to lose another 2.
Yeah, I believe that was intentional because they were trying to skip effectively. And the Raider Ire, as we can see right now, dealing with this wall phase. I'm not sure if they actually got that last creeping, not creeping doom, the purple stuff. They did not actually clear it off completely. But right now, they're just gonna wait this creeping doom out, not stand in these walls, and then they gotta prepare to kill that ad that's gonna come up and make the boss immune for, well, while he's casting. So we're instantly just gonna see Meow-chan just interrupt or stun that one right away, and then just not caring about that ad, because as it always spawns in this quarter. There we go, Avatar of Vengeance, instant Hammer of Justice. Boss is not immune anymore, and now they just gotta make sure that they don't stand in that glaive that's coming back, because that when it does, you take twice the damage.
Yeah, but once again, everything ends up working out for them. You know, Meow-chan has to somewhat sacrifice a little bit of damage to actually move over to that puddle to get rid of it, holding the light, runs over, but then you want to be tanking it in that corner anyway. Meow-chan can instantly snap back onto the target. We're seeing a lot of damage coming out with Meow-chan staying in tow with the tank here, but just an impressive run all around for Raider.io. They deserved some Titanforge loot coming out of this one.
Both teams kind of living up to their identities here as we've come to know them over the course of the Mythic Dungeon Invitational. Raider.io came in. It wasn't a flawless run, but it was close enough for all intents and purposes. They still look just as powerful as they were looking when we saw them last weekend. And Friends with Affixes as well. You know, I talked